Welcome to the Series 2009 Agency Order Processing for Shipment Option 1 web class. Agency orders are used to process orders from agencies for product. An agency order in Ceres allows you to create the initial order, ship product, and finish by posting the invoice. Agency orders can be entered manually or through the optional Agency Express web ordering system. To access the agency order list, in order to create a new order, you would start with Departments, Agencies and Receivables, Order Processing. From the list, select Agency Orders. And if you're using batches for processing your agency orders, the batch selection window will first open. If you're not using batches, then it will take you directly to the agency order list, which shows all of your current orders in process. Since this database is using a batch selection, we will select the batch and click OK. This brings us to the list of open agency orders, where if we wanted to continue working on an existing order, we could select the order and open the document and continue working. Or to create a new order, we click on the New Action from our Action pane menu, or you can go to Actions, New. The agency order document window will open, and first we will hit Enter or Tab to create the agency order number. This would be if you are set up to use automated numbering, which most food banks are. If you are not using automated numbering for your orders, then you would need to manually enter the order number before proceeding. Once you've selected or hit Enter to move on, this is a little slow here, so I'm just going to go directly to selecting my agency. I can either select the agency number by typing it in manually or by using the drill down or assist button to find the agency. If you know part of the agency number but not all of it, as you type it in, it will then fill in or find any agencies that match that. So once you find it, you can select it or you can finish typing in the number. Information from the agency card will flow to the agency order header. So information such as parent agency number if you're using parent agencies, contact, agency name, etc. Will all flow to the header. Additional information will also flow on the shipping and invoicing tabs, which we'll look at in just a moment. The posting date, order date, and shipment date will all fill in with the current system date or work date if using a different work date. So if the shipment date is going to be a different date, then you would want to update that. And typically your posting date is going to be the same as your shipment date, at least for the shipping portion. If you don't invoice the same day, then you would want to make sure that you update the posting date to match your invoicing date when you go to invoice. But for now, the most likely thing that you're going to update will be the shipment date, unless for some reason you're doing an order for someone who's picking up currently, or such a shopping order or a pickup where they just, happen to come in the same day. But that typically doesn't happen. So we will set the shipment date on this order to the 30th, and shipment date doesn't matter if it's a pickup or a shipment, uses the same date field for the day that the pickup is made or the date that the shipment will be sent out. If using assigned user ID, you can go ahead and select the assigned user ID from the assist button. If not using that field, then you can skip it. If you're using appointment times, then you can fill in this information. If it's a web order, the appointment date or the appointment time will flow from the order itself. But if you want to put in the appointment time, which probably isn't necessary if it's a manual order, but it may be if you're trying to keep all of your orders in line by appointments. So we'll just put in an appointment time here. And you'll notice that I got a message that says that the appointment line does not exist. And that's because no appointment lines have been set up in a matching calendar that would go with my location of NOPP, which happens to be the location that this agency is currently assigned. And there's no appointments for the appointment date of 8/30/12 or for that time. So Well, that's why I get this error message. It would be, I would have to already have my appointment calendar set up in the background in order for this to be able to be filled in. Since I don't have one set up, I'm just going to delete it. But hopefully when you're creating an order, you will have a calendar set up so that you can assign that on the order if desired. The shopper field, if you require shopper in order to post an order, a manually entered order, obviously if it's a web order, it will come through with the shopper information from the file that was submitted on Agency Express. But if it's a manual order, you can select the shopper from the drop-down. And the Your Reference field, if it is an Agency Express order, this field will be populated by the PO number that is submitted by the agency. However, if it's a manual order, then you can fill in any Your Reference in this field. So if you wanted to make note of something in the Your Reference field for the order, you can enter that here, or you can leave it blank. If it is a web order, the field will be grayed out and you will not be able to make any changes to it, as it will be populated with the PO number from Agency Express. And because every subsequent order, if you're allowing order modifications online, every subsequent order is tied to that same reference number, so it has to remain the same throughout the life of the order. You'll notice there's some fields here for order modifications and order version. Order modifications, if you are using Agency Express and you do allow online order modifications, or even if you don't, the first version of the order will be at shopper only, and it remains in shopper only until you run a process to update the status of the order from shopper only to food bank only. And while it's in the shopper only mode, you can't make changes to the order, such as adding items or deleting quantities for items on the order, or adjusting quantities, or even, maybe I already said that, even adding items to the order. So if you are using Agency Express for web orders, as I mentioned before, it will come in as shopper only. Once you run the process to change it to food bank only, then you can make changes to the order within Ceres. But this is a manual order, so we don't have any order modification status, nor do we have an order version. The order version starts out as 0. Unless it's a web order, it would start out as 1. And each time the shopper modifies the order on the web up until the point where you change it from shopper only to food bank only mode, that order version will just keep incrementing as the order is submitted over and over again. But for a manually entered order, it will remain at 0. The status field is not a field that you can manually change. You actually have to go to either release or reopen in order to change the status. When you're inputting a manual order, the status should be open, and when you're completed putting all the items on the order and it's ready to be released to whoever's going to pick the order, then the status will get updated to released at that time by running the function to release. So for now, the status is open. The fund number is a number that is currently set as a default on the agency card, and that information flowed from the agency card to the header in the General tab. And we're going to collapse the Lines tab here, and then we're going to look at the Invoicing tab. Any other dimensions that are stored on the agency card can also flow to the agency order header, such as department code. If using project code, you may have other dimensions that you're using that aren't currently being shown on here. Some people, and actually I'm not sure if function code is used in this version, but any dimension that is set on the Invoicing tab will flow through to the order. So as you can see, that this value of department code 30 came from the agency Invoicing tab and flowed to the Invoicing tab of the order, and there was no project code defined, so there's no project code showing here on the order header. If excuse me, if you need to add a project code, you can certainly select it here, and it will update and populate the lines. Once you have, once you enter the lines, they will be populated with whichever department and project you define. So even if something comes over from the agency card, you can change them on the header to match the actual dimensions needed for this particular order. So I'm just going to pick one for the purposes of doing this order. And then we're going to collapse the invoicing tab, and we're going to look at the shipping tab. On the shipping tab, other information about the agency comes through, such as the location code, shipment method code. So if you have a default shipment method code, pick up or deliver on the agency card, that information will also flow through to the agency order. There wasn't a shipment method code defined on the agency, so we have no value showing here. If we know this is going to be a delivery, for example, we can choose the delivery shipment method code. And that information, of course, as I mentioned, would flow from the agency if it existed on the card. So even though this agency may get pickups on occasion, for this particular order they're having it delivered, so we've selected the shipment method code of deliver on the shipping tab. And this, of course, will affect whether or not, if we're using delivery fee charges, whether we will get a calculated delivery fee when we run the routine later on. Go ahead and collapse that. The delivery web tab of the order header, we'll go ahead and expand that. If there was any delivery information stored on the agency card, that information would flow to the delivery web tab of the order header. And if this was an agency express order and the shopper put comments on the order before submitting, those comments would come to the delivery info field on this order header. And if there were comments on the or in the delivery info tab on the agency itself, they would be overwritten by the comments that the shopper submits when they submit their order, and that would populate in here. The delivery zone, if a delivery zone is assigned on the agency card, it will flow to the delivery web tab on the order. The shopper information, it is from the header, so because we populated the header with the shopper, it shows here on the delivery web tab. If this had been, excuse me, if this had been an agency express order, the shopper information would have come from the inbound PO file and would also populate the delivery web tab. If emailing the shopper information, this flag will automatically get set on a web order. If you want to email the shopper for a manually created order, you can check this box. The key is that the shopper email address must be a valid address, and there must not be any spaces at the end of the address. And also that if you send an email directly from here, you have the DLL files registered on your machine that allow you to actually send emails from an order. So you'll notice because this is not a web order, there's no information about web order. It's not checked as web order. There's no web acceptance status or user ID, etc. All of this information is populated by the information that comes in on the PO file when the order is accepted by the system, what the status is if it's an allocated order, whether the order's been validated, transmitted, etc. You can reject any order from Agency Express that passes validation and acceptance rules if you're allowing the system to auto-accept orders. It is possible to go ahead and reject something that was already previously accepted, but you would need to select a rejected reason code first, and then once you've selected the rejected reason code, then you can select the rejection option here, and it will ask you, are you sure you want to do that? And if you don't confirm that, so you'll notice I got a little message here, and it says, web order must have a value in agency document header. That's because I can't reject a non-web order, but had this been a web order and I tried to reject it, it would have prompted me to make sure that I wanted to reject the order because it cannot be undone once it's been rejected. So I will remove that. Actually, I have to select blank again. Well, now it's got me in a loop, it looks like. Hopefully it will let me bypass that by hitting refresh. There we go. So because I had tried to put in a rejection status of an order that wasn't a web order, it just kept giving me that message until I refreshed the screen by hitting F5. Okay, so those are the fast tabs on the agency order, and now that we've confirmed the data has populated from our agency card, and we've updated any values that we need to for dimensions, etc., then we can go ahead and go to our lines and begin to enter the items. So in the type field, or type column I should say, you would select the type of item, since you're going to be entering items onto the order. And then in the number field, you can either enter the number manually or use a lookup. Or if you know part of the number, you can type it in and then use the lookup or the assist button, and it will find the items that most closely match that. The first one it found was the applesauce cups, which indeed was the item that I was going for. So I'll go ahead and select that. The system shows the available quantity for the location that was defined because the location was defined on the header of this agency order based on the location stored on the agency card. It found the available quantity in this location. There are several factors that affect available quantity, one of them, of course, being location code, as well as lot consumed by dates. And if the agency is qualified for the product, so if they're not qualified, you may get a message saying that the agency is not qualified for item, and that will give you the item number. And you'll know that there are some qualifiers that exist on the item that do not exist on the agency or agency group, and that's why it gives you that message. But this particular item doesn't have any qualifiers, so it met the qualifier requirements, and there are 966 eaches available in the location called NOPP. Now the columns that you see across the order form here for the lines of the order, these have been defined by myself. So you can go to choose columns, and depending on what you need to see on your order, you can select from available columns on the left, add them to columns on the right by highlighting it and then choosing add. Or if there's a field on the right that you don't wish to see or is not necessary for you to have showing, you can highlight that line and choose remove. Right now I have several fields available on the form that I want to see, such as the type, the item, in this case item number, or if the type is GL account, then this would be the GL number. Description, available quantity, unit of measure code, that's based on the item you've selected, the quantity that you're putting on the order, the extended gross weight, which would be the quantity times the gross weight from the item. So if the item is a case item or has a gross weight other than 1 on the item card, it will give you the calculation there. The location code that's associated with the header. Now it's possible that the agency may be in a location code or may have a default location code that is not the location in which this product is currently stored. So you can update the location code on the line in order to be able to see the available quantity for that product. Zone code, pallet number, lot number, bin code, these are all showing on here because this is a shipment option 1, meaning that we don't create warehouse documents for the picking and processing of the order. Everything is handled directly from the order itself. So because of that, we have to select the pallet if it's a palletized item, the lot, and the bin code on the order itself. Unit gross weight, I can actually move this up so it's right after my quantity. Actually, I'll put it after my unit of measure code, and then we'll see the unit gross weight, quantity, and then the extended gross weight. We also are showing the VAT fees, so if there are any value-added processing fees defined for the item or handling fees, those are going to display. Our line amount, excluding tax, so this will be our amount for that particular line. Fund number, which came from the header. You can decide if you want to show this on the lines or not. As you can see, it's showing over here. Department code, which is one of our dimensions that we require, at least in this test database. So we've got department code showing so that we can see if we need to update it based on the individual line, or if we'll leave it as it was defined by the department code that flowed from the agency. I've also added a couple columns, quantity to ship, quantity shipped, quantity to invoice, and quantity invoiced. That way I can see how much has been shipped already, if anything, or how much is remaining to ship, what's remaining to be invoiced, and what has been invoiced, if anything. And if using grants, I want to see the grant allocation amount. So these are the columns that I've decided to display. Again, this is up to the requirements at your food bank and what you need to see on the form, so you can select the appropriate columns. I selected OK there, and it's refreshing the form for me right now. Okay, so now we're back to the order, and we can see that information already populated many of these columns. As I mentioned, the location code came from the header, so I happen to know that that's the location I want to get the product from. I have 966 available, and they are ordering, let's say, 10 eaches. And before I fill in all the other information, such as pallet, lot, bin, etc., I'm going to add my other items to the order. I actually only have one other item that I'm going to add, but I'm going to go ahead and enter that first before I select the other information. You can do it in whichever order you want. If you know the pallet, and again, only if it's a palletized product, you need to select the pallet number. If it's not palletized, then you just need to select the lot. But I'm going to go ahead and enter my other item that I want to order. And we got 5 cases of that. And I happen to know that my first item here does not have any pallets, so I can skip entering the pallet number and just enter the lot number. So I'll go ahead and select my lot. I can either enter the lot manually or use the drop down and find the lot that I want to apply on this order. And it shows that I have 481 available on this lot and 485 on this lot. This one is my oldest lot, so I'm going to select it first to update the order, and then I'm going to select the bin code. And of course, it's only going to bring up the bin in which this lot is located, so I will select the bin code there. As I mentioned before, this item was not palletized, so we don't have a pallet to select. And when I selected the lot, it populated the zone code, which in this case was considered a shopping zone because there is a setting on there to exclude from warehouse documents so that we don't have to create extra warehouse documents. We can do everything from the order. Now you'll notice that there's nothing in the quantity to ship field, so I will populate that. If I know that I'm going to be shipping or they're going to be picking up 10, that's what they ordered, then I can populate that. If I don't know that until they actually come to pick it up, then I can leave it blank. But the hope is that there will be 10 available for them to get, since that's what we're putting on the order. There was enough available quantity when we created the order. So once we put the quantity on this order, it's reserved for that agency in the matter that another order can't be created and use up 10. It may be a different lot that another order could be created from, but this 10 is, quote, reserved for this particular agency. On the second line here, we do have a pallet, so I'm going to select the pallet from the available pallets. And once I select the pallet, it pulls in the lot number and the bin code because all that information is stored with the pallet. In this case, for the one that was a lot-only item, it didn't have the bin information directly linked to it, so I had to select it. But depending on how yours is set up, you may have, once you selected the lot, it may populate the bin code as well. So I'm going to put in the quantity to ship here, which is 5. And at this point in time, I have all the items on my order. If I wanted to add more items to it, at this point in time, I still can because the status of the order is open and not released. But for now, this is all that they've ordered, so I'm just going to leave it sitting out here like this. And I can close the order because obviously the shipment date is not until the 30th, so I can just close up this order and leave it sitting out there until it's ready to be processed. Now, when it's ready to be processed, you may wish to print a pick ticket for the order. I've added the pick ticket report directly to the action pane here, but if it's not on your action pane and you don't want to add it there, you can go to Actions, Print, and then choose Pick Ticket from the list of available reports to print. There's also Order Confirmation and Work Order, a couple different reports. There's a lot label as well, so These are some of the reports that are available in the drop-down Actions Print menu, or you can add the reports to your report action pane. So if I wanted to print something that I don't have in my action pane, I can get there by going to Actions, Print, and then select the report. So for example, if I wanted to see this work order, excuse me, I can select it, choose Preview, and it opens up the work order, which is kind of small for me to read here, but it gives me the name of the agency, the order number, the shipment date, and the quantity for each item. And then, of course, they can fill out this work order if you so desire to use that. I don't know many people using the work order, but it's there if you would like to use it. The pick ticket, similar to the work order, or only in a different format. It gives us the item number. So we don't actually have the agency name across the top here, just the order number. And then we have the items, their description, where they're located, how much is ordered, and the unit of measure code, and then the quantity that they've ordered. And then here's a place for the person who's picking the product to write in the quantity picked. Now, you may have a specialized order pick ticket that has the bin code and lot information as well. This default pick ticket does not have that information, but if you have a pick ticket that has that information and they've got it set up to print it, then you would see a slightly different pick ticket that has the lot information and the bin as where the product's currently located, and perhaps even pallet column would also be displayed. So let's say it's now the 30th of August, and just for the heck of it, I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go to the work order or work date. I'm going to set it to the 30th. And I'm going to go back to my order because now I'm ready to actually process the order. And in order to process it, I have to release it. So right now the status is open, meaning that I could still make changes to this order. I can add product to it. I can change the quantities. I can delete a line. Whatever the case may be, helps if I get to the right order. So let's go back and find the right order. Should be at the top of my screen, not the bottom. Now we're on the right one. So as I mentioned, it's still in an open status, so I can add to it or I can change things on the order. But if I'm ready to release it and have the product picked for either pickup or delivery to the agency, then I would choose the release option here from the process action pane. Or if I don't have it on my action pane, I can go to Actions, and I can go to Functions, and I can choose Release. Once it's released, then I can run a report to see all of my agency orders that are released and ready for picking, or I can just print the pick ticket and hand it to whomever is going to grab the product. So it just depends on how you handle it at your food bank as to what the next step is, but you do have to release it in order for it to be ready for processing. So I choose the release option, and now the status updates to released. If I want to go ahead now and I can print the pick ticket. I can also, if I want, print an order confirmation report. And again, this may be a different report that you have than what you see on the screen here. You might have a report that shows grant allocation amounts if applied. This particular report does not. It just shows the total due the agency. If we go back and look at this actual order, and we'll have to scroll over to the right here, so bear with me a second, you'll notice that the amount on this line was $252 and the amount on this line was $1680, and both of those lines were covered by grants. So at this point in time, the agency does not actually owe any money because they had grant funds available to them that covered the fees on these two lines. Now, I haven't yet calculated delivery fees, so it may be that at this point in time I'm ready to calculate delivery fees, or I may do that later when I'm ready to invoice. So we'll leave that for now, and we'll calculate delivery fees later, but just know that that can change, of course, the overall amount due on the order. If I click on statistics here, I can see that, once it comes up anyway, hopefully not too long, there we go. We can see that the amount is $19.32 and grants applied are $19.32. So the actual amount that the agency owes is really $0 in this particular case. But once we calculate delivery fees, if any of those are added to the order and the delivery fees aren't covered by the grant, then we will have an actual amount due. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and collapse that, and we'll notice that the status is released. So there is a report that you can run that shows, let's see if I can find it here, nope, not batch release. It is called agency, I have to remember the name of the report here. I should remember it, but it's called Items on Agency Orders. It used to say, I think it was called Items on Released Agency Orders, but they took the released out, made it too long. But this report only includes items on released agency orders, and you can run it by shipment date. So, and I'm sorry for the delay here, but for some reason the system is running a little slow. So in just a moment, our order will pop, or our report will pop up, hopefully. Oh, went down here. This is a classic report, which is why it takes us to this kind of a filter screen rather than the filter screen that you see with the fast tabs when it's an RTC, RDLC report. So as you can see, you can filter this report by item number. You can filter it by location, bin, or you can filter it by a shipment date or a document number, anything that's available on the agency order. We know that we want to see just those for August 30th, and I'm going to click on Preview. And it brings up our Items on Agency Orders report. It shows us that we have, and it's in item order, so it shows us the item. If it were on multiple orders, then underneath the item number, it would show all the orders that that particular item is on. Shows the agency number for whom, who has ordered the item, the name, the shipment date, the quantity they've ordered, the unit of measure, the gross weight. If any quantity had been shipped, it would show here. Any quantity to ship shows here. A quantity available in pick bins, in storage bins, and quantity in other bins. So it lets you know if you have any items that you might need to drop or move in order to fulfill your orders for that day. In this case, we don't need to move any, but this report can be helpful in determining that. It's a replacement for using the warehouse activity plan. If you're not using warehouse documents, then you probably don't want to use a warehouse activity plan, but you may still need to move food in order to have it available for the picker, and this report can help you determine what needs to be moved. Okay, so it is now the 30th of August, and we're ready to pick the product. Maybe we pick it the day before, depends on your processes at the food bank, but however you do it, whenever you're ready to actually pick the product for the order, then you would either print your pick ticket or run the reports that show you what needs to be picked. So we're going to go back into our order. And we're going to go ahead and print the pick ticket now. Hasn't changed much, just we didn't make any changes, but this gets handed off to the person who's going to go pick the product. And let's say they go out to the warehouse and they find that something happened to the applesauce cups, and there's, at least for this particular lot, there's not enough available. Now, they could come back and add in a new lot to get another one, or maybe the agency's okay with taking 9 instead of 10. Just depends on, what you have arranged. If you have other lots that are available that can, fulfill the need for this particular item ordered, then you can add the other lot to the order. So in order to do that, they would have to go back and reopen the order and then add a new line. So change the quantity on, for example, let's say if that was the case, we would have to go back here and reopen the order. And then once it's reopened, we would have to expand our lines if they weren't already expanded. And we would have to change the quantity on the first line to 9 because we only had 9 from that lot, and change our quantity to ship to 9. And then we can either insert a line here in between the two, or we can add a new line at the bottom here with the item again. And then we'll put in the quantity of 1. And we'll go over and select our lot. We know that 0576 can't be used because, I mean, even though we have a ton here, but let's just say we didn't have enough available on that lot, so we would have to select a different lot. And we'll select the bin, and we'll put in the quantity of 1. So that was just a scenario. We had plenty available in this lot, but if we didn't and we had to use another lot in order to fulfill the order quantity, just know that you have to reopen the order, and then you can make change, and make sure you change not just the quantity to ship, but the quantity on the line, because otherwise you could end up with a back order situation, and you don't want to have that. So you want to make sure that you're fulfilling the entire order. Now, if you only had 9, then you would change the quantity to 9, quantity shipped to 9, and you would need to add this new line, and that way you could process the order for the actual amount that the agency received or would be receiving if it's being delivered. Once you've updated everything, then of course re-release the order, and now the order pick process can happen. If we go look at the pick ticket now, it's going to look a little bit different. We have 3 lines here. So again, if you have a report that shows you the bin, the lot, and the pallet, then it's going to give you, more information. You'll see, oh yeah, I have 2 lines of applesauce cups, but that's because I had to get some from one lot and some from another. So the picking is complete now, and the order is ready to be shipped. So I have all the quantity to ship populated in here, the order's released, and I'm ready to ship the order. If invoicing is done at the same time, then the key thing is you want to make sure you update your posting date to match the shipment date. And if you're invoicing the same day, then once you do it, you're good to go. You can just do ship and invoice. But for this example, we're going to ship only at this point in time. So we've updated the posting date to match the shipment date of 8/30/2012. And then we can choose post or post and print if you want to print a copy of the invoice. Since I don't want to, mine would just go to a PDF file, so I'm just going to choose post. Now, depending on the settings that you have at your food bank, if you do not have rights to invoice, you may only see the ship option, and somebody else may do the invoicing. If you can do either one, then the system defaults to ship and invoice. So if you're not going to invoice it, excuse me, if you're not going to invoice at the same time, then you would want to select just the ship option. So I'll choose ship, and it posts the shipment lines. And then you'll notice that our quantities moved from the quantity to ship column to the quantity shipped column. Expand that a little bit. And now the quantity to invoice didn't auto-populate with the quantity shipped, although I'm not sure if that's just a setting that we have in this particular test database. Yours may populate with a quantity to invoice based on the quantity shipped. Typically, it's going to be the same. You're not going to invoice, although you may invoice in multiple invoices. Chances are you're only going to invoice one time. Oops. And so these should match. The quantity to invoice should match the quantity shipped. If they don't, and you post, let's say, 8 in this line and 3 in this line and 1 in this line, then the order will remain open to invoice additional later. But we're going to invoice all of it at one time, and we are going to pretend that we don't invoice the agency the same day as we ship the product, but it's now the date that we actually invoice them. So I'm going to pretend that it's going to be next Tuesday. So I update the posting date. The shipment date remains the same because that's the date that that the product left the building, either was picked up by the agency or they were, had it sent out via delivery. Now, This particular agency happens to be have a shipment method code of deliver, as I picked earlier in the training. So we want to calculate the delivery fees. And oops, sorry, wrong tab. Oh, no, that is the right tab. Shipment method code of deliver, and then we have a shipment. Excuse me. We have a delivery zone code that was set up. So based on the fees associated with this delivery zone, when we calculate delivery fees, it will update the agency order lines with the delivery fee amount. So click back up there so I don't have those extra lines hanging out. And if you don't have the calculate delivery charge action on your action pane, you can go to actions, functions, and then calculate delivery charge. Also, if your system isn't auto-calculating grants, which it should if grants apply, you can manually calculate grants from here as well. But we already have grants applied for the lines on the order for this particular order. And now we're going to calculate the delivery charge. So it calculated the delivery charge of $9.95, and that was based on the fees for the total gross weight of this order and the fees for that particular delivery zone code. And you'll notice if we scroll to the right that the grant allocation amount was not applied to the delivery fees because it's not set up to cover delivery fees, only shared maintenance fees. So our order is ready to invoice now. It's the 4th of September. We've calculated delivery fees and everything's fully shipped, and now we're ready to invoice. Our quantity to invoice matches our quantity shipped, and now we can go to post. And again, if you are set to invoice only, ship and invoice is fine. If it's been shipped already, it will not ship again. However, if there's quantity remaining to be shipped, so there's quantity in the quantity to ship column, then you would need to have ship and invoice selected in order to ship the remaining quantity and invoice the full amount. You can also just select invoice, since that's what we're doing at this point in time, but if it's already fully shipped, then it's fine if you leave it selected as this. It says delivery charges appear to have been overridden. I'm not really sure why it says that, since we just calculated delivery charges, and only thing I can think of is because I put my cursor in there that it thinks that I changed the amount. You may or may not get this message, so I will say yes because I want to post anyway. And now the order has been posted and it's no longer showing in my agency order list view. And if I were to go review the agency card now, I should see the balance has been increased by the amount of this invoice. It wasn't very much because the grant covered most of the order. Sorry for the delay. And I can get to the invoice either by going to the balance field and clicking here, or I can go to related information agency and then ledger entries. And I can see the document that I posted. And the posting date, the 8/27/12, that was the shipment date. And here's the, oops, sorry, that's a different one. This is the one we posted because this is the invoice date, 05/07. That was the one I posted earlier today. So the invoice date is what shows in the posting date field, and actually the amount shows a 0, so perhaps the amount for the delivery charges were indeed covered, and I just didn't happen to catch that. But if I want to go look at the actual document again, I can navigate to it from here, and I can choose posted agency invoice and show, and I can take a look at it, and it will show me the document, the items that were ordered, and the quantities. And as you can see, we have our 2 lines for applesauce cups there, and I can collapse that one and look at just the lines if I want. Go ahead and close that. So that is an overview of the agency order processing for shipment option 1, and hopefully you learned a little bit something new. We will have additional classes on agency order processing for the other shipment methods coming up available soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.